Welcome to a lesson in history. Today's show is all about this place. Now, you don't say Bowie or Bowie. It's Bowie, named after one of Maryland's foremost governors, Governor Odin Bowie.
Bowie and horse racing have been synonymous for a long time. But even though training still continues, the track itself closed for racing in 1985. But the image of horses and competition still persists in the history of this rich area.
The mansions of the great families, the Ogles, the Duvals, the Taskers, still exist alongside the high technology that is increasingly the new face of Bowie. Let's drop in on one of the mansions that the rich and famous of Bowie once called home.
Welcome to Bel Air, home of governors, horse enthusiasts, and with some of these trees over 200 years old, some botanical history as well. Two distinguished gentlemen, Benjamin Tasker and his son-in-law, Governor Samuel Ogle, built Bel Air around 1747. Samuel's son Benjamin carried on his father's traditions by becoming governor and a lover of horses. It was easy to tell which role he preferred. Thoroughbred racing really began in America when Benjamin Tasker Jr. brought a wonderful filly called Selima over from England. With Benjamin and the Ogles so passionate about horses, Bel Air would remain a well-known racing farm for many years to come. After the Ogles lost Bel Air in 1871, the estate passed through a succession of owners who farmed the land. Then in 1898, James T. Woodward of New York took over, and Bel Air was ready for national attention. Woodward added 2 wings to Bel Air and the hyphens that connected them to the main house. This grand house, a true Maryland original, still stands today. Real estate improvements, however, didn't make headlines. What did were 2 horses who took home America's premier horse racing prize. Gallant Fox in Omaha of the Bel Air stables grabbed the Triple Crown in 1930 and 1935. Another one of Woodward's horses, Nashua, came close, winning the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes, only to fall short at the Kentucky Derby.
Starting in 1957, Bel Air became a residential property. William Levitt, famous for housing construction, and the man for whom Levittown in New York is named, set up offices in Bel Air as he set about changing the face of Bowie. In 1964, the city itself moved in as Bel Air became City Hall.
Today, Bel Air is recognized as a house of distinction and is on the National Register of Historic Homes.
This is on the National Register because it is distinctive in architecture. It's a milestone in Maryland history in that it's the forerunner of the very sophisticated grand mansions of the 1760s, 1770s. It was built in the middle 1740s, that's the center block of the house, for Provincial Governor Samuel Ogle. And we have the coat of arms of the Ogle family here to my right. It has an antelope head at the top and then the shield, which bears the colors of the family. The Woodward ownership of Bel Air came to an abrupt end in the fall of 1955 when William Woodward Jr. was shot and killed by his wife on their estate at Oyster Bay, Long Island. They had to decide what they would do with Bel Air, keep it for the benefit of his children or sell it and establish a trust fund for them, and they opted for selling and establishing the trust fund. So that's why the property was sold to the Levitt Corporation. Every May, when we have our Heritage Day at Bowie, why we bring some horses into the stable. It's impossible to have them there all the time because this is a residential area and ordinances forbid animals being in the area. However, just to give people an idea what it used to look like in the stables with the horses, we bring them in. So we invite you to come out and see us at that time. As I said, third Sunday in May, and the hours are from 2 to 5 o'clock.
Today's Bowie offers constant reminders of the past. Street names, parks, and schools honor many of the city's founding fathers. But for a real live history lesson, nothing beats the antique shops of Old Bowie.
You'll have an easy time finding a souvenir of Old Bowie here along Chestnut Avenue. The antique shops are filled with memorabilia, reminders of a time when this part of town was still called Huntington, and the trains that rumble nearby were the only fast means of getting anywhere.
All aboard for Bowie. I am here at Fabian's House of Antiques, and I am talking to Frank Fabian Frederick Fladung. All right, and he is the proprietor of this antique shop. And this house has been here since 1898, Frank, is that right?
Yes, the store was built in 1898, and the house itself was added on in 1914.
And your family has actually been here in Bowie since before it was Bowie even. Is that before it was incorporated? You were telling me earlier when it was
Yes, my great-grandfather was here in the early 1800s, and of course my father built his house next door to this building in 1912.
Mm-hmm. So how long, what was Bowie before it was Bowie? I mean, was it an establishment?
This older part of Bowie, as we refer to as Old Bowie, was laid out as Huntington in 1870, and was incorporated. It didn't build as fast as was anticipated. It was sold as lots to be an ideal climate between Baltimore and Washington, which was on the railroad line.
Right.
And sales didn't take off, and scattered houses were built here and there, but there was a lot of businesses.
Many of the things that you sell here now would have been sold here new when it was a shop. And for example, we've got a pair of long johns here.
Yeah.
Would you perhaps have worn a pair of long johns like that at some point?
I wore long johns exactly like that.
Can we get those over there? Okay. And
did you want to take them off?
Yeah, sure. Let's have a look at it. Okay. And so these are what you would wear to sleep and in the winter time.
Well, you wore them to keep warm. And
yeah.
What's interesting is the little flap here in the back, which was for convenience.
And then we have an even bigger sort of a tub here. And this would be something that you would put your whole body in, I guess.
Well, not my body. At this time,
not my body either, Frank.
When I was little, I could fit in. This was the child size. There was one smaller for infants up to, that would be big enough to put in it up to a couple of years old. But then there was the bigger one for adults.
So there's no plumbing hooked up to this, right? I mean,
no
if
plumbing.
You want to have hot water and something like this, you've got to heat the water and just pour it right in there.
Yeah, you heat the water on whatever accommodation you may have. It could be a wood, at that time, it could have been a wood stove or a coal stove. And you just pour it in, and you had to save because there wasn't, the water had to come out of a well most of the time. You had to drop a bucket down and bring it up, carry it into the house.
So you just move that into whatever room of the house and fill it up?
If you had a large family, it wasn't unusual that you had to stand in line to use this commodity.
Well, that is something. That is something.
Cleanest one would go first, and as you got little dirty fellas, they'd be last because you didn't always have fresh water. But if it got dirty enough, I'm sure the parents would figure out how to dump it and put it in more.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Frank. Bowie has grown by leaps and bounds since the early 1900s, with new residents drawn by the strong sense of community and the idyllic countryside. Today, Bowie is Maryland's third largest incorporated city, and its future can be viewed through the prism of high technology. Whoa! But to get to that future, we've got to turn things around. This old railroad station used to bustle with local residents headed for jobs in Washington. Bowie was largely a bedroom community, with few job opportunities available close at hand.
The federal city still beckons, but the pace of progress has changed Bowie from a suburb to a place of business. Today's residents find that there's often no place like home for finding work. Bowie's new town center and projected technology center are providing countless jobs for workers throughout the area. Education is as much a part of the future as the past. One of the first institutions of higher learnings for blacks in the nation was established right here in Bowie.
Mia and I are standing on the campus of that school. Formerly Bowie State College, it is today a university within the Maryland system of higher education. Way back in 1867, the State Normal School number 3 started out as the Baltimore Colored Normal School for teacher training. In 1910, it moved to Bowie, where it has served as a community resource ever since. People of all races now attend Bowie and earn degrees in fields as diverse as education and computer science.
Over the years, thousands of Bowie graduates have gone on to outstanding careers throughout the world, and some as close as right here. For people looking for a reason to explain the quality of life in Bowie, they need look no further than this progressive university.
Bowie State University has enjoyed a very interesting history over the past century or more. The university began as a normal school for black citizens. It started in a church in Baltimore, and it provided an education to black citizens because the law did not allow white citizens and black citizens to go to school together at that time. Today we have an institution that is highly integrated. More than 35% of our students are white, and we have expanded our program from simply teacher education courses to include the computer science, science, mathematics, and many liberal arts majors that are of interest to students.
Mia and I are waiting for the history class to begin at the university. Maybe we'll find out more about some of the places here in Bowietown that we didn't have a chance to visit on today's show.
Oh, like Marietta, home of Gabriel Duval, a U.S. Supreme Court justice and a member of one of Prince George's most notable families. Or White Marsh Chapel, where in 1783, Father John Carroll helped establish the American Catholic Church. Soon thereafter, Carroll was designated as this country's first Catholic bishop.
Although so much of Prince George's County began right here in Bowie, that is perhaps too narrow a view. With its history of outstanding public servants and its thoughtful plan for community development, Bowie is really a microcosm of the nation.
Whether you fly from Free State Airport in Bowie or someplace else, we know you'll agree that there's a tapestry of history and beautiful sights down below. If you have a fear of flying like Ken here, you might want to explore Bowie with both feet planted firmly on the ground. See you next time on a
Lesson
in
History.
Oh.